So the Open Cup dates back to 1914 when it started, and it was the U.S. Soccer Football Association, which is now the U.S. Soccer Federation. It was their domestic cup tournament, and it's something that every federation did around the world, and it was just what you did when you started it. I think the U.S. Open Cup in a lot of ways is the history of soccer in America. There's a couple gaps in it, and the North American Soccer League, for example, the New York Cosmos didn't play in it, the Atlanta Chiefs didn't play in it, the Minnesota Kicks didn't play in it. There's a gap, but that's soccer in America. There's been these fits and starts, right? So it takes a little bit of time for everything to come together, and for this one, you can look at it in a couple different eras. You have the early days with the Fall River Marksmen and Bethlehem Steel and multiple trophy winners there. You have the more amateur days in the middle where the game was maybe a little lost in the United States. And then in the mid-90s when first the A-League and then MLS came into it, now it feels like the modern era of the Cup. That's soccer in America. It's been all over the place in a lot of different ways, and it's trying to tie together all of these different aspects of the game. And I think the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup does that.
I knew Atlanta United was going to be not just for real, but they were going to change the league in their first match ever. In the inaugural match on March 5th, 2017, I was at the stadium. I wasn't covering the team. I was there to watch soccer. I was with friends and my wife, and I saw them play against a good New York Red Bulls team, and they hung, and they looked good. They looked different. They were attacking. They had players that were dynamic. They were polished, really early on. Like, they knew what they were doing. They were very confident right away in the way that they moved, in the movement, they attack. And they were testing players early, like Julian Gressel. Their draft pick was right in there, right in the mix right away. And so I think right there I knew that this team, with the coaching staff that they had, obviously the ownership that they have, and the confidence and the ambition of a front office that wanted to win right away, like, I knew that team was going to be good, from the moment they started to play.
When you cover Atlanta United, everything is the first, the biggest, the newest. And that's a huge part of their identity. That's their whole culture at this point. And it's made it a very exciting team to have in the league. But when you're looking at a Minnesota United, it's not just about 2017 onward. You're talking about the past. You're looking at the Kicks. You're looking at the Strikers, the Thunder, the Stars in Minnesota United in the NASL. And it's not just because the fans have been going on since those days, the Dark Clouds, all of the supporters, that whole culture. But you're also looking at the players on the field themselves who have made an impact. Ramirez and Ibarra, those guys had a serious part to play in the MLS era as well. And so when you're looking at Minnesota United and you're covering them, you really have to keep the whole picture in your mind and compare things to not just the early days in MLS when they were losing 6-1, 5-1, but you really are looking at that era in Blaine at the National Sports Center and beyond.
Yeah, so I've been part of the U.S. Open Cup since 2011. Not many great memories. Never made it past the round of 16 with Columbus. So joining Atlanta mid-season and getting to this point is fantastic.
I think that's always our goal, to make sure we bring back trophies to the great Minnesota and the fans. They always show support to us for 100% to every game. Win or lose, they're always there. So for me personally, I've always been wanting to win a trophy. My whole soccer career, I've always just made it to the semifinal or final and always lost it. So I mean, this is not now another great opportunity for me personally. One of my goals to make sure I lift up that trophy.
Yeah, I think Atlanta United, they've adapted. It's taken them 6-7 months, and I don't think that should surprise anybody. Like, it does take about that time to adapt to a new technical staff, and not just a new technical staff, but you're replacing essentially the culture of the team, one that was with these players for 2 seasons. So I think you need to credit, or at least say that you can't blame or be surprised by Frank de Boer either. Like, he's the new manager. He wants to come in and put his stamp on the team, and but it obviously wasn't working early.
I think what's been intriguing in the recent years has been that you could say that the Open Cup and the Supporters Shield are actually kind of similar in that they're both underneath MLS Cup, and depending on who you are as a club, what your goals are, and what you accomplish in a given year, you're going to treat either one as a big deal if you don't win MLS Cup. The U.S. Open Cup's not like the FA Cup in terms of history and heritage yet. You don't have those special moments of Eric Cantona scoring at Wembley for Manchester United to do a double. You don't have the treble win that they did when it was part of a bigger package. You just don't have those moments yet. And some of it is down to access, some of it is down to marketing, and some of it's down to just needing those moments to happen. You can't manufacture them.
Hi, Chi.
Hi.
Hi, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
I'm
you
hungry.
too.
Can I give you a hug?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you for inviting us today. I'm super excited to get a tour.
So I've worked on around roughly 5 TIFOs with the different supporter groups, but my absolute favorite is the El Tata one. That one is near and dear to my heart. I love that man so much, and we knew it was his last season, and we had to commemorate him leaving. We couldn't wait to see if we were going to get the cup, so we knew we wanted to do it in the playoffs just to make sure that we did it before he left. And seeing his reaction was amazing.
My role, I do it for Wonderwall as a whole, not just the Dark Clouds, is I organize all the away travel. So any game that we go to, I organize the tickets, tailgate stuff, things like that. So I've been doing that since we've joined MLS, so 3 years now. And I think we're gonna have about 400 to 450 folks here. It's obviously tough. That's on a Tuesday, so it's kind of a rough game. On why it's not on a weekend, I don't know, but it's we had a lot of people, make sure they can get off work and travel for this game, and I think it'll be really exciting for a lot of the people here. And I know many people back in Minnesota and St. Paul watching at different bars wish they were here, and we're gonna cheer loud, and you're gonna make sure you're gonna hear us.
Well, before this Cup run, Minnesota actually had some success in the U.S. Open Cup. You're gonna have to go back to either the end of the 2000s or the early 2010s when they were the Thunder, just before the Stars, just before the NASL. Minnesota United made the quarterfinals 1 year after they had to sell the hosting rights to Real Salt Lake and Jason Kreis, and then they went to Salt Lake City and they won on the road. And then the next year they went to the semifinals and they were hosting Landon Donovan. And that's a game that he still remembers, that he talks about having to go to this little 4,000 seat stadium for a Cup semifinal to knock off these pesky Minnesota Thunder. So that's a huge part of their history.
I think the players, especially like Atlanta United players, I think Atlanta United players want to win all the trophies that they are competing with, or competing for, to win. I don't know if personally they feel, hey, the U.S. Open Cup is a big tournament, we need to win it because it's prestigious or because of the history. A lot of the guys didn't know what it was before they came to MLS, the guys that were the foreign players. But they know it's a trophy now. And after 2 years in this system, after 2 years in this city, seeing what what the fans want, the expectations of the club, I think now they understand that anytime that they're in a tournament, they want to win it. And so that makes the U.S. Open Cup a very important tournament for Atlanta United. They've adapted, the coaching staff has adapted, and I think now we're seeing a team that if they can come together, which I think they have, they're still the best team in MLS. LAFC is the best team this year, but I still think Atlanta United is one of the best teams, if not the best team roster-wise in MLS this year.
More MLS teams should take this competition seriously. I don't think as many people take it seriously. Even our own front office doesn't promote it as the way they should, and it's an important competition and really gets you into an exciting competition with the Champions League.
I think the Open Cup trophy is something that doesn't get as much attention as it could, and I think that if Atlanta United won it, it would just put it more on people's radars as like, you do want this trophy. And then that's a fast track to CCL. And they want to get back into CCL and really make a point there.
I think a lot of people look at the Open Cup as not that big of a deal. It's not easy. It's not an easy road where you go in first round to play a team that is motivated for it, a team that is playing potentially the game of their lives, and you don't know really much about them. And you're stepping away from league play on a weekend to go play a midweek game. Sometimes it's hard to get up for those, and you have to rotate your squads because you have limited rosters and guys get tired and there are injuries and you have to balance that. So it's not easy to get here. And I think for Minnesota and Atlanta both, it's a great accomplishment. What I'm hoping is that this game gives some of that history that we need, some of those special moments. The Rochester moment in '99 is probably that moment for this tournament, but when you put it to a backdrop of just a few thousand people, it doesn't stand up as much. Whatever happens here will have more pomp and circumstance because of the setting. And I think that'll be a great thing for this tournament in the long run.
For the players, obviously, winning a trophy is the reason you play. But if you're looking at the fans in Minnesota, what you're seeing is a fan base that's used to being the underdog supporters. The fan base where their team almost died just about every year or every 2 years. There was a threat that their club, no matter which iteration, wasn't going to be around next year. And so they put so much emotion into their relationship with the club that being able to win the U.S. Open Cup for them would be a validation of all of the years of effort, of struggle, of turmoil, and all of the excitement that they've had during this 2019 Cup run and the regular season. I think it would mean a lot to them, not for, we did this necessarily. That's not how they look at it, but just to say we were there and we supported it, and they could know for certain that they had a role to play in the team's success on the field.
I really like that we are facing Minnesota United in the Open Cup final. I watch a lot of Minnesota United games because I think they're a fun team to watch. And with us starting at the same time, we couldn't have had different paths that led us to the same goal right here. They had more struggles than we did. They're not as deep as a team as we are, but they've made it here. They're fun to watch, and I think it's a great showcase for the 2017 class, facing off who's the better of the two.
So what it's like to be playing in a U.S. Open Cup final or final of any sort, it's pretty exciting to see us play for a trophy. We've been, obviously the first 3 years of MLS has been, we've been struggling, not the best, but it's pretty cool to see since I've been watching the team since 2011, right after they won the NASL Cup final there. So it's pretty exciting to see them compete for a trophy here. So and especially exciting to compete against a team that came in with us in MLS.
Yeah, one of the biggest memories from this year for the U.S. Open Cup would be against Houston. I think going down 2-0 at half, everybody probably thought this was it for us. We come out second half, we turn it around, and then next thing you know, we score the game-winning goal to make it to the next round.
Most memorable moment so far in Open Cup is definitely the win in Orlando. Obviously, it was my first time back, facing my former club, kind of the turmoil between myself and the club, and the maybe added pressure with the reaction from the fans during warm-up or every time I touched the ball. So to go out there and put in a good performance with my teammates and to come out on top in the semifinals against your rival feels great for us, and it doesn't feel great for them.
They know now by winning the U.S. Open Cup, they're going to qualify for the Champions League for CONCACAF. And so, like, let's say they don't win MLS Cup. It would be, whether it's a failure or not, like, they still have the fact that they're in next year's Continental Tournament. So that's one. But you know, Darren Neals, the president of Atlanta United, said on local radio this week that the identity of this team is winning trophies, and so they're going to try to win every trophy that they can.
I don't know of many, if any, Minnesota United fans who are looking at this as just a bother of a midweek match. Everyone's fired up for this. The previous record for traveling support for Minnesota United was 150. They're going to at least triple that tonight at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This is the biggest game the fans have ever seen. They haven't been to MLS Cup. They haven't been contending for the Supporters' Shield. And they didn't win the NASL after 2011. The inaugural year of the league where not everyone knew what they were getting into. Now this is the time where they're able to say, we're a contender, we're for real, and we're going for this. And I think the fans have really embraced this tournament more than, honestly, a lot of MLS fan bases truly have.
The atmosphere at Mercedes-Benz affects us in such a positive way. I was talking to Leandro the other day, and it's when we play at home, we feel like we're giants. We walk out, and it's like, this is our arena with all these people supporting us, and it just has a feel like you can't be beaten there. And we take that energy and confidence, and we put it on the field, and you see when we play at home, great things come from it.
I think the average people that watch this game, they're all gonna see, first thing they're gonna think is the fan base that Atlanta has. We know it's gonna be a packed stadium. We know they're a strong team in Atlanta. So for us, it's just making sure we're concentrated, and we know that fans from Minnesota travel to watch this game, and it's really important for them. Like I've said it before, that we know they have our backs and we're gonna have theirs, so really excited for it.
For me, Atlanta United is a little bit different than a lot of the other clubs in MLS because they're younger, but they've already had great success. And so having success early, especially for the players in this culture, like I said before, they just want to win every trophy. They're used to winning, that's all they know. All they know is how to win. And so the more tournaments, the more finals that they play, it becomes kind of, they're difficult to play against. I think it just raises the profile, not so much for the tournament, it raises the profile for a specific team like Atlanta United. If they win on Tuesday, they become this club that knows how to win finals. And that's big in world soccer, world football. There are certain clubs that know how to do that. And I think that's what Atlanta United wants to become. They want to be a club that knows how to win in a final.
For the city, it's a good question as to what the Open Cup would do, because I think it's still a trophy that is growing in importance. And we saw this with the Campeones Cup, where nobody really knew what to make of it going in, but once you got into that atmosphere and lifted it, now you lifted that trophy. So next year that trophy will have more meaning for whoever is competing for it. I think for the city of Atlanta, that's kind of what this tournament, this trophy would be. Maybe a few question marks, but for the club, in the soccer world, it's another domestic trophy. It's the third in 3 years. That just doesn't happen. I think for Minnesota United, being a CONCACAF would change everything because it just puts them on a bigger plane. For Minnesota, it's a recruiting tool. It's a weapon to get your fan base going. It's a weapon to keep players who might be looking to go elsewhere, potentially brings more money into the club, and makes you known. You know, we've seen Atlanta United with their success and their recruitment strategy, they're known worldwide, and especially in South America where they're trying to bring players in. Now we're seeing Minnesota go to South America as well. If they have a cup championship on top of that and a CONCACAF run, it's going to attract a higher profile player.
A lot of U.S. Open Cup games, I think this is the most important one for me. And I mean, most important one, I think we never thought we were making to the final. I think a bunch of people never thought we were going to be in this position that we are now. If we were to lift up the trophy, I think the first words that come to my mind would be a dream come true. Like I said, that's always been a dream of mine. So lifting up that trophy would be another milestone that I reach.
Personally, for me, to lift the trophy would be a dream in a way, because you want to win something during your career. And you know, Campeones Cup was kind of a one-off, and I had a good feeling, but this one we've grinded, and for me, I've had to face two of my former clubs on the road, and to come out on top. You know, so this run hasn't been easy for us, and to lift it tomorrow would be fantastic. And hopefully they got the champagne and goggles, and I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully we can, you know, become champions of a trophy that hasn't been won yet here in Atlanta.
I think it was a great move by U.S. Soccer to put Lamar Hunt's name to this tournament. Lamar Hunt is one of the pioneers for professional soccer in this country. He invested in the Dallas Tornado in the old North American Soccer League. He kept that league afloat for many years and gave it credibility when it started that soccer didn't have in this country. Lamar Hunt is a figure that if you talk to anybody in American sports, they're probably going to know from the Kansas City Chiefs, or they're going to know from the old American Football League. But he was so instrumental in the soccer world as well, and it didn't end with the NASL. He was instrumental in the beginning of Major League Soccer. He believed in professional soccer in his country. He believed in it enough to build the first soccer-specific stadium in Columbus, Ohio. And that was through his own efforts and his own money, because he battled the politics of Columbus for a number of years, and he was finally like, I'm going to build it, just get out of the way, it's going to happen. And the crew won the tournament, and it was one of Lamar Hunt's probably greatest moments in his soccer life. And it's special that U.S. Soccer was able to recognize such an important figure in Lamar Hunt and put his name on a tournament that actually had some meaning to him as well. So for him to be on this trophy, on this tournament, it's a really important thing.
What do I celebrate? Maybe a game winner, last minute of the game. Maybe take my shirt off, why not? A little chest hair action.
What's been the most forgettable moment of the Cup so far?
The most forgettable? Probably don't have one.
Because here we are.
Yeah.
This right now.
Jeff's super witty, super funny. And when I came here, I still have this story at Bobby Dot when I juked him hard center field and he gave me like an elbow and threw me down. I was like looking at him, but he's like, it's just an MLS foul, bud, get up. And that's Jeff. He's always, gonna play 150%, even though he's 45 years old and older than the Open Cup. He still got it, and it's surprising to see a guy that is the grandfather of MLS, still performing and still a fantastic guy in the locker room.
Jeff, do you think of anything else?
No.
We're good, man.
Yeah, we're good. So thank you. That's a wrap.
Perfect.
Sports production.